Well, howdy, folks.
Howdy.
Well, that was pretty good, but I'm going to make y'all do it again. That was just a tad bit disorganized. So let's try that one more time and see if we can rattle the rafters, all right? I said howdy, folks.
Howdy.
Well, that's much better. Well, I'm Wild Bill, and welcome to Deadwood. Welcome to the number 10 Saloon. And by the way, I have y'all know y'all sitting in the only museum in the world with a bar. That's right, and we encourage y'all to use it. Now, I'll tell you what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take some questions from y'all, and I'm going to give you some answers with a little bit of story behind it. So what I'd like y'all to do right now is start thinking of the questions that you'd like to ask me. And while y'all thinking of that, I'm going to introduce you to some of my friends. So first of all, let's have a nice big round of applause for our bartender, Mr. Polly Pocket. Next off, I got a real good friend of mine in from Wyoming by the name of Charlie Rich. And around these parts, well, he's a fairly well-known gambler. Come on out here, Charlie. Howdy. Good to see you. Now, next we have a celebrity in our midst today, the very famous riverboat pilot, Captain William Massey. Come on out here, Captain. Howdy. Good to see you, Captain. And last but not least, the owner of the number 10 Saloon, Sheriff Woody. Come on out here, Sheriff. Good to see you. Well, Charlie, why don't you go ahead and deal us up a game? I'll be right over here to join y'all shortly. Well, I hope y'all appreciate our little gag I'm playing on you today. I just couldn't resist. Now, if any of you got any questions, now's the time to put your hand on up. Go ahead and pop right up, and I'm going to answer you all straight away. Sir?
After you got shot, how long did he live?
I ain't never been shot in my life. Now, to clarify, today's date is August 2nd, 1876. So if you're going to ask me any questions about the 3rd, you might want to save that till after the show. Now, anybody else out here got a question for me?
You got a girlfriend?
Well, no, I just got married this year, right back in March 5th, to a woman by the name of Agnes Lake Thatcher. Well, Agnes Lake Hickok now. And, well, I'll tell you, we run into each other many times over the years, and the last time we run into each other was right out there in Cheyenne fairly recently. And, well, we just decided maybe there's a little bit more to it than running into each other, so we went ahead and tied the knot. And as it were, well, we went out to Cincinnati to have our honeymoon. And, well, right about that time, I heard about the gold rush here in Deadwood. So I beat it back out to Cheyenne to start the first wagon train to come out to bring supplies here to Deadwood. And, well, once I got there, I was running my ad in the papers saying J.B. Hickok wagon train, you see. And I found out my friend Colorado Charlie Utter, he had started his own wagon train called the Charlie Utter Wagon Train. And, well, we figured that we might as well just merge them into one big train, being a heck of a lot safer to travel that way than two smaller ones. And that's what we did. We called it the Charlie Utter Wagon Train. And, well, as it were, we made it all the way out here to Deadwood without incident. You betcha. Now, I'll tell you, once me and Charlie got here, first thing we did was we registered several mining claims down at the assayer's office, you see. And the way it were, well, 2 of them actually turned out to be very productive. Very productive indeed. The only problem with having a very productive mine, however, is, well, there's actually 2 problems. And the first one that comes along is, well, you have a tendency to make a lot of friends, just like that. The other problem is you have a tendency to make a lot of enemies, just like that. Now there's a compound problem between the 2 that says you can't tell the difference between the 2. Yes, sir. But I'll tell you, I have been hearing some rumble around Deadwood about somebody maybe trying to jump in their claims. And the only thing that's a little disturbing about that is, well, it's about the first time I ain't known the face of my enemy, you see. But I'm sure he will show his face eventually. And when he does, well, I've got a couple of friends for him to meet. Good question, ma'am. Next question, right here.
Why are your gun handles facing this way?
Well, I'll tell you, this is what you call wearing butt forward. And there's a very good reason for that, you see. And the reason is because this is about the quickest way you're going to get them out of your holsters, you see. Now when you're wearing your guns like this, which is called wearing strong side, which is, of course, the right hand. Most people are right-handed. And well, when you go to draw your gun out, you get right about here like this. And I don't know if you can all see, but notice how my shirt gets all tight right here, and even my waistcoat tightens up right under my arm. See that? Well, what that does is that causes a restriction of movement. And well, I ain't even cleared leather yet. So while I'm trying to fight my own clothing and get my gun to clear leather and then get it out level and get the hammer back and let her go, well, that just seemed like a whole lot of waste of energy to me. It seemed like a good way to slow you down and get yourself killed too. Especially when all you got to do is just give a little jerk just like that without knocking your microphone off. Oh, do you all want to see that again?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to do it slow this time so y'all can see how it's done. Now you just take the index fingers, you see, and you just hook them right on the inside of the trigger guards just like this, you see. Just like that. And when you go to pull them out, well, you just kind of let gravity do the work and let them turn on down like that and give them a little flip right up into the business position. And well, that full speed looks something like this. See, I didn't hit my microphone that time. Now there's another way of drawing your gun nice and fast. Well, that is if you just kind of stand there kind of nonchalant-like with your hand on your hip. Most people don't even see that you already got your finger through the trigger guard. You see that right there? Just like that. And well, that lets you get it out good and fast. Just sort of like that, you see. Now, I'll tell you something else. Most folks ask me what type of guns I'm carrying, and I'm going to figure that that was going to be your next question. And I will tell you, these are Colt's 1851 Navies in .36 caliber. This is the early model, which has a graduated twist to the rifling, you see. Now what that means is the twist gets tighter and tighter as it gets to the end of the muzzle, which makes the ball spin a lot faster. And of course that provides for a lot flatter trajectory while it's flying through the air. I.e., that means it's going to be a heck of a lot more accurate. Yes, sir. And, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you the other part of that. What that all means, see, these are cap and ball pistols, or muzzle loaders, and either one to call them is proper. And what that means, see, is you got to take all the powder and you got to pour it in each one of the chambers all the way around, all 6, see. And then after you're done with that, then you take a lead ball and you drop it down on top, and you press that there lead ball down into position with the loading lever, just like this, you see. And when you're done with that all the way around, then you come back up to this end, you take what is called a percussion cap, and you place it over each one of these nipples all the way around, and you take a stick or a wooden dowel, and you make sure they seat it up real tight, see, because if they ain't tight, that gun may not go off when you pull the trigger. Believe me, if you pull the trigger, you need it to go off. So once you finish that all the way around all 6 times, then you are ready for action. Now one other thing, because of the nature of these types of firearms, it is a very good idea when having all 6 chambers loaded to drop the hammer right in between chambers. And that way if you happen to bump that hammer a little bit, you won't shoot your knee off. Now some folks don't load one of the chambers and they let the hammer down on an empty chamber. Well, that just seems like a good way of getting yourself killed to me. If you got 6 of them, then you load up 6, not 5. That's why you can drop the hammer in the middle of them. See, just like that. Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else out here? Right back here, sir.
Up to date, how many men have you pulled the trigger on?
Well, sir, counting the War of the States, I would have to say well over 100. Now, when I was scouting for the Army of the Southwest, we was down in Arkansas, you see, and well, we had the misfortune of being penned in around some rocks. And now we was all pretty grateful we had enough spaces between them there rocks to get our rifle muzzles out through so we could defend ourselves. Otherwise, I may not be standing here today. But I tell you what, during the first day of that skirmish, which lasted 3 days, well, I'd counted 39 fellers I'd killed. And it was never nothing I was proud of, you see. Nor was it ever nothing I ever cared to talk about much. But I'll tell you, second day of that there skirmish, I didn't bother counting. Figuring there's some bits of information the feller better off not knowing about. Now, have you know something else, sir? Before that there darn war, I never imbibed in no liquor, nor did I ever play no gambling games. Well, I suppose I do both now. Just call it a diversion from evil thoughts. Sir? Next question. Right over here.
Sure. How reliable are those weapons in wet weather?
Pretty darn. Pretty darn. See, if you're out in wet weather, well, you keep something over them like a top coat or a duster or something like that. But the nature of these weapons compared to the older ones where you had to pour the powder down the barrel and then put a ball down and seat that ball, well, I'll tell you, these are a heck of a lot more reliable than they ever were before. So even if you do get a little bit of water on top of them, chances are it ain't going to affect them none. Unless you just get saturated. And you get saturated, well, you better take your guns apart and dry them off real good, because they ain't going to last very long if you don't. Good question, sir. Anybody else out here got one? Right here, ma'am. Oh, heck no. Bring my wife to this mud hole. Only thing that's here in the way of women is just a bunch of...
Yes.
Well, maybe we just stop right there. But you know what I mean. I wouldn't have a woman here. Or a lady for any case. Sir?
First name's James. How'd you get the name Wild Bill?
Well, that's a very easy question indeed. Next question. I'm just teasing you. Well, I'll tell you. See, I go by the name Bill. Actually, all four of us brothers, we use the name Bill when we travel around anywhere outside of Illinois, or actually anytime outside of the county. And, well, the reason for that, you see, is we got a very large family. Very large indeed. Matter of fact, our family first came over here from England about 200 years ago. And back then, we spelled our name different. It was spelled H-I-C-K-O-X. And well, once we got here and family started getting bigger and sprouting off in different directions, some of them decided to change the spelling of it and they decided to spell H-I-C-K-O-K-S. Now my part of the family, we just dropped the S and simplified it down to Hickok. And I'll tell you, it's a very large family indeed. It's scattered all over the East, everywhere you go, just about. And well, the reason we used that name was, that was our daddy's name. Our daddy's name was William Alonzo Hickok. And well, that way when we was traveling, if somebody recognized our daddy's name, say some relatives or something we ain't met yet, well, they'd recognize our daddy's name, you see. And they'd say, now are you any relation to old Bill Hickok up here in Illinois? And we would say, well, surely, sir, we are. And it was just sort of a way of getting to know folks you didn't even know was there. Now, as far as the name Wild Bill goes, well, I don't know why anybody want to call me that. You see, us four boys, we were growed up by our mama to be respectful, cordial, and kindly at all times, you see. Unless, of course, we was disrespected. Then I suppose you could say our daddy's trained to tick over. tell you about the first time I ever heard anybody call me Wild Bill. Well, that would have been probably, that would have been now about 1871 when I was marshaling Kansas, Abilene, Kansas, you see. And there was an occasion where I was chasing some rowdies out of town. And now they didn't need to be shot up nor arrested nor nothing like that. They just being a little bit too loud, a little bit too rambunctious. And as I was chasing them out of town, I was firing my gun up in the air. And well, on the way back into town, I heard some woman holler out, "There goes Wild Bill." That was about the first time I think I ever did hear that. Now there's a feller by the name of Ned Buntline, writes them dime novels. Well, I'm sure all you read a dime novel at least once in your life, and if you have, then you know they ain't worth a dime. Matter of fact, they probably ain't worth the paper they's printed on, neither. Although now that I think about it, I could think of something that paper could be used for. Anyway, that feller Ned Buntline, see, I don't think he ever knew my right name, because he always referred to me as the Wild Bill and all the stories he ever wrote. Matter of fact, it was probably 3 or 4 stories later that I suppose he found out my last name and started referring to me as Wild Bill Hickok. Of course, that feller's about as close to being a black liar as you could ever imagine. Only feller I ever did see that could take that much information and build that much story around it, to the point where you wouldn't even recognize yourself reading about yourself. Well, I'll tell you though, he was good for one thing though, and that was giving my best friend Billy Cody his start in the theater out there in New York.
Yeah.
Of course, Billy realized he was robbing him blind, you see, and well, he quit working for Ned right away, just like that, him and Texas Jack Omohundro. And that's when Billy started writing his own scripts and putting on his own productions. And well, eventually yours truly ended up out there in New York. Very reluctant, I might add. Matter of fact, when Billy asked me to come out and do some of that there play acting with him, I turned him down flat, saying, "No, Billy, thank you, but I think I'd feel like a plain fool as a play actor." But you see, later on that night, well, we got to drinking some liquor and playing some cards and such. Well, I suppose you could call me the loser of the bet, because I end up out there in New York doing exactly what I did not want to do. But I'll tell you though, it had some fine memories here and there, even though I didn't like being on stage much. But I'll tell you, man, about old Billy there, I don't know if y'all heard, but he's got his Wild West show now, called Buffalo Bill's Wild West. Big old red letters, yes sir. He traveled all over the land, he did. In fact, he's got so many people working for him, he got about 500 folks working for him, all doing different things in the show. Anything from engines and Cossacks and, well, British military, he just got everything going on. Yes, he did. You know, I don't know if y'all heard this, but he's going to be going over the Atlantic to England to play for the Queen. With Calamity Jane, I might add. Be about the first time she been called Calamity Jane without socking that feller in to kiss her, I'll tell you that. I don't know if y'all know, but she don't like being called that name much. I keep telling her, you know, Jane, there's going to be a day when you introduce yourself like that. Of course, she always tells me, well, you can go to hell, Bill, because it's never going to happen. Well, guess what? It happened now. Yeah, well, joke's on her, ain't it? Anybody else got a question out here? Anybody at all? Well, I'll tell you what, if we ain't got no more questions, and this is your last chance to get your hand on up, if we ain't got any more questions, I'm going to start a little presentation on one of them there newfangled recording machines. And well, it's going to tell you all about the origins of Deadwood, the way we do things here at the number 10.